Okay, guys, it's time to teleport yourself from the crazy tent streets of San Francisco, and it's time for us to go to New York City, Manhattan. And if you go to Manhattan, there's one of the most exclusive neighborhoods. It's basically a whole neighborhood filled with brand new skyscrapers being built, Hudson Yards. I was born in New York, and I gotta say, New York City is always changing. New condos, new skyscrapers, and multi-million dollar units. But nowadays, multi-million dollar units are getting up to 50% off in price cuts. And they're still not selling any of these units. In fact, I heard 35 Hudson Yards still has 30 to 40% units haven't been sold out. You're seeing record vacancies in 35 Hudson Yards. This is going to be one of Manhattan's tallest buildings, guys. This is over 90 stories. Beautiful views, new construction, constructed back in 2019. Condos look fantastic. So what's going on here? What's causing all this mayhem in Hudson Yards, especially 35 Hudson Yards? This is their tallest one. So if you check out what's going on in the markets, you do have a massive commercial real estate crisis going on. Okay, not to mention you also have people not necessarily wanting to buy real estate in New York City. I remember in 2015 to 2019, it was crazy. Manhattan real estate was selling faster than Waffle House waffles, for Christ's sakes. And if you look at a bunch of Chinese buyers kept buying, a bunch of Middle Eastern buyers kept buying, a bunch of Russian buyers kept buying. It was a crazy market. Now it has died down and people are actually buying luxury units in other areas around the world, like Monaco, like Singapore, like Tokyo, like the UAE. And even Qatar is actually getting some pretty crazy sales. So you're actually seeing the super luxury sector already calming down by several miles. And if you really look into what's going on with Manhattan, the overall office vacancy rate is pretty high. Now, okay, guys, San Francisco's vacancy rate is 33%, which I also tell you guys all the time that it's way more than 33%. It's more like 50 to 60, 70%, simply because a lot of companies still have offices leased, but they have already left. So the offices have nobody in them, but they're still leasing it because the contract hasn't ended it, right? So that's the rules of real estate. So San Francisco in the next 2 years, we're probably going to be seeing vacancies of 55 to 70%, and certain buildings probably near 100% vacancy rates. And I'm not even joking about that. But New York City, it's still pretty resilient. New York City, especially Manhattan real estate, is still pretty strong. Now, yeah, it's almost 17% vacancy rates, which is pretty terrible, right? At least it's a little bit better. I heard Manhattan real estate is still pretty strong in the residential sector as well, despite a lot of companies moving out and a lot of the banking sector also moved to Miami. You still have a lot of international customers. Talk all the crap you want about New York City, but Manhattan real estate is still the cream of the crop. People around the world still want to buy it. But even with all that crazy buying, vacancies are still hitting a new high, which is actually causing a lot of developers to sweat bullets at this point. Now, it's a luxury tower, guys, built for New York City's richest people, and it sits half empty at this point. And 3,500 Yards is having a lot of big troubles trying to offload some of these units because the longer they hold it, first of all, you have very expensive property tax. That's New York City for you. Two, they're still paying very high interest rates to the bank. So every single one of these units is literally draining money from their pockets. So this is why Hudson Yards is actually willing to offer you 50% discounts just to sell this condo. They're done. They don't want to hold on to these condos. So we're seeing condos being sold for 20% off, 34% off, 35% off. And recent sales include a 4-bedroom selling for $8.5 million. The original price tag was close to $16 million, guys. And I've seen Hudson Yards when they first listed it. It was very expensive, very crazy. And people, some did rush and buy it. But like I said before, Hudson Yards isn't just about the condos, because the condos start at 53 stories to 92 stories. And if you look at 35 Hudson Yards, most of the retail space, most of the offices in the building is pretty vacant. The overall Hudson Yards neighborhood is also owned by the same dude. Department stores closed, after 60 months due to pretty crappy sales and also the pandemic. We're also seeing, Hudson Yards is cool. They got a Dior store and stuff like that. But It's also kind of gimmicky due to the fact that it's just large, giant blue skyscrapers. Like, if you're going to New York City, you probably could go here for like a few hours and leave. Because if you're going on a big Manhattan trip, you're not going to Hudson Yards. Maybe you are, but most of the guys probably go to like a Flatiron District. They probably go to, Wall Street, look around, West Village. People go to those places. They don't just go to Hudson Yards, right? So even the tourism industry is taking a pretty big beating in Hudson Yards. And like I said before, there's just not that much demand in super luxury condos. Hudson Yards sits half empty. You know how much money they're losing? I mean, this building literally has to sell all their units at probably their own listed price right now, the remaining units, and then hopefully get like it down to like 10% or 5% vacancies to actually start making good money. But it's been 4 years after sales have launched, big price cuts. They're even giving out free Broadway tickets, covering buyers' closing costs, taxes. Nobody really wants to be here. Let's just be real. Plus, like, for this price, there's so many other better areas in the world to spend your money. You don't have to spend, freaking $7 million on a condo in Hudson Yards, Manhattan. You could go to Miami for literally a third of the price. You could go to Dubai. That's another popular one. Singapore is another very popular one. And Sydney and Melbourne are other popular locations. So this is why you're seeing a lot of these Hudson Yards skyscrapers sitting pretty empty. Not to mention, like I said before, a lot of companies are moving online, right? Manhattan real estate is so expensive. A lot of startup companies who only have like less than 30 or 50 employees, they all say the same thing. Rent is just such a big money drainer for them. They much rather move online. This is why Manhattan's vacancy rates are rising. And I really don't understand, how are they still building a crap ton of these towers if super luxury listings aren't selling and if a lot of these offices aren't being rented out as fast as before. You see One Vanderbilt, okay, like their tallest skyscraper, well, one of the tallest, just say that. One Vanderbilt is like this brand new office building and tourism spot. It's like pretty empty as well. And it really just makes me wonder, like, what are they really thinking? Like, what are the developers doing? You also have developers making like Central Park Tower, making it like super duper tall, and it's completely vacant. I mean, this building is pretty vacant. I mean, check out like the tallest skyscraper condo in the world. You also have people really don't want to buy it, right? It's super tall, it's super cool. The penthouse is listed for $250 million, but do people want to buy it, right? I mean, a lot of these Billion Row condos are fairly empty, and we're actually seeing a lot of conversions from office to residential in Manhattan, and it's not really looking so great for New York City real estate. Just be careful, guys. If you're like a multi-millionaire watching this video and you want to buy a condo in 35 Hudson Yards, really think to yourself, the prices are probably not holding that well, and the prices will probably continue going down for a lot of these ultra expensive Manhattan real estate pieces and these ultra luxury office spaces. Nobody needs an ultra luxury office space. Maybe if you're like Pfizer or something, but right now, it's taking a pretty big tanking. This building is half empty. Nobody wants to move in, and it kind of sucks. Let's see what happens. I mean, wish the best for the developers. I mean, this is a really beautiful building, and it deserves to be rented out. But let's see what's going on. There's just not that much demand for this sort of thing right now.